Hello, and welcome to the mixtapes. I'm your co-host, Amber, with my lovely co-host, Nikki. Hi, Nikki.
Hi, Amber.
All right, and we also have special guests joining us today. Cathy and Victor are back. If you remember or recall, they were our first guest on the show, and we've asked them to come back and rejoin us because we just feel like having them on again, and we think that they have some really interesting perspectives, and we just wanted to have an opportunity to dive deeper into more of their life and story as a couple and as parents as well. So, welcome, Victor and Cathy. Thank you for coming on.
Hi.
Thank you for having us.
All right.
We're excited to be back.
We most definitely glad y'all remember us when you turned into big superstars.
Oh, we'll never forget you. So much so that when we do our first live recording in real life, you guys will be there and you will be our guests.
All right.
Now that's gonna happen. We're gonna be so rich that we'll fly you out.
Oh, man.
We love it. We'll be there.
All right. So, Victor and Cathy, you do remember that when we start our podcast, we invite our guests and also each other to tell us something good. So, I'll kick it to you all first. Tell us something good.
I guess I'll go first.
Go ahead.
I mean, I'm an old retired guy. Not really old, but I really am retired. I'm 56. I'll be 57 in a couple weeks. I'm bored as hell, but I'm currently seeking employment. So that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
I got a little interview tomorrow to go to, and someone got to help me find a job and whatever as an old guy. So hopefully they help me out.
That's awesome.
That is.
Yeah, just a little bored.
You're bored, but are you excited about working again?
Depends on what kind of work it is.
That's fair.
Yeah. I guess that's what's cool about being retired is you have more choices.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, you can do something fun. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I'm excited about the weather this week. It has been beautiful here in Ohio. We had almost 80 degrees today.
It's 80.
Which has gotten me to be able to get outside and take care of my flower beds. I was able to weed my front flower bed. And although that sounds like weeding, that's exciting. I mean, it really just is. It's good exercise for me. And it's just, I love being outside. So that has really been joyous this week.
I love that.
And it's only Tuesday.
And it's only Tuesday. All right, Nikki, tell us something good.
Well, honestly, I was like beaming hearing Cathy talk about the weather because same, I've been feeling that way too. In New York, it was, I think today it was like 80 something. It got above 80.
Right.
And it was really nice. So that's been definitely riding that wave in my something good. And I've been spending just a lot more time outside with my dog. I took her we have like a state park over here. It's called the Walkway over the Hudson, and it's like a bridge that goes from our side of town to wherever else. I don't know. It's like 2 miles and it goes over the Hudson River. And it's really nice. And I took my dog there. It was her first time going and she hated it. It was like super windy when we went, and there's like a rail trail that leads up to it. So that part we loved. We were having a great time. The sun was, shining and we were vibing. And then we got onto the walkway, and it was just, I think it was because of the wind and being over the Hudson River. Like it was so much wind, and her little ears, she has ears that are like this, and they were like freaking out, like she was like this. So we just did a little half mile and turned around. I was like, we're not doing this. But I also took her into the bathroom for the first time. I don't know if anyone's ever taken a dog to the public bathroom before. That was quite the experience that I would not recommend doing.
People give you a hard time for that, or was the
Nobody
dog
said anything, which was surprising.
Right,
I was like panicking because I really need to go to the bathroom. I don't know what to do with her. I don't want someone to take her. I was on the phone with my dad. He was like, take her in with you. I was like, all right. Like, at least it's a park, I guess, so it's not nice.
Yeah.
That's my something good is that I've been spending a lot of time outside. So literally the same one, copy and paste to Cathy's. Amber, what's your something good?
I guess this is a pattern or a theme. I've been spending some time outside. We actually took our sons, our youngest, to camping for the first time. Daryl and I have been camping, but we went back to we took our kids to the place that we went when we were first together. It's like Glen Isle Resort, so shout out to them because it's really cool and beautiful here in Colorado. And we got so much rest, and I don't think I've ever heard anyone say like, "Oh, how much rest they got from
While
camping."
camping. Yeah.
But I guess it was like a lot of stress like leading up to going camping because we were trying to make sure we were comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But we put a lot of effort and energy into making sure like, okay, we're going to be comfortable, we're going to be cozy. But my favorite part, even though like obviously taking the kids and them really enjoying it, was that I had like some time to myself. I love that freedom of, just being outside and not really caring about anything else. Like I wasn't like, where's my email? Let me, do this.
Right.
If I'm at home, I'm
Disconnected.
going to
Yep.
like find projects to do. I literally like Saturday was like, I just want to lay by the river because we like camp by the river. And I like put an outdoor blanket down and just lay on a blanket and took a nap in the sun. And I never do those things. But I feel like camping, or at least this recent trip, just made me feel like free to just do what I wanted and what felt good in the moment. But I came back feeling so like rested. Yes, like it's not like sleeping in your bed, but just like that freedom. I just needed that like stress-free time.
Right.
I don't know. I'm like, now I'm like, when can we go again? I'm ready to go because it feels
Yeah.
like that is going to be the way that I like have self-care and rest
Mm-hmm.
is by just getting out of town and disconnecting from phones and
Right.
technology. It was great. So we're going to go again at the end of May, but if we can squeeze in another camping trip between then, I will take advantage of that.
I'm ready to go with you.
Let's go.
I
Let's
saw
go.
those pictures. I was like, oh my God, that place is beautiful.
It was. It was like this like couple that are retired teachers and they bought this land. And so they have cabins and they have like tent locations. There was one other family. We were actually the first tent campers for their season.
Yeah.
They only had like 4 people that like signed, or 4 families that signed up to camp that weekend. And there was like people in the cabins, but they're retired teachers. They bought like this beautiful land. And they're such great hosts. They have like rescue horses on their property. I was so glad that we went back to that same place. I think we went there in 2018 and they had just bought it. So like just to see how much effort and energy
Wow.
they had put into fixing
Yeah.
it was really cool.
Well, I'm going to tell you, we took our boys camping all the time when they were younger, and that is just a great memory they have and they love to do. So,
It's a yearly thing
it's a
now.
yearly
Yeah,
thing.
at
And they
least.
still want to go camping. But I have a question to ask you on that.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Do you ever get the comment like, I think Victor has gotten this as a Black person going camping, and then also on top of it being a Black female camping? Like, have you gotten comments or
So
stereotype
I grew up
people?
going camping with my family and like
Okay.
they knew other groups of Black families. So growing up, that was normal to me. I just thought that was what my family did.
Mm-hmm.
But when I went to like, to college and I was like, oh yeah, when we would go camping and like people would be like, what? Black people go
But
camping? Or like I would be like, oh, I was in a ski club. I was in a Black ski club here in Colorado. You know what I mean? Like it was other Black families taking their kids to go skiing.
Mhm.
And people would like, once again, that was the norm for me. We were surrounded by, it wasn't like we went camping with like our families, like my parents' white friends. It was their Black friends. We went skiing with their Black friends. And so Kathy, yes, it would be other Black people that weren't from Colorado that would be like, Black people go camping, Black people go skiing. And I was like, yeah, that was normal to me. What do you mean Black people do this? Like that is what we did. But I will say, funny story, and I told Nikki this the other day, but there was like an older woman when we were camping and we like were walking around like the campgrounds and they were in a cabin. It was an older white woman and she like was like looking at me because I think I was the only person of color. The family next to us was probably Latine, but I was definitely like the only Black person on this whole campground, literally. And then like obviously my 2 kids. But we were walking and she was like staring at us and I was like, oh Lord, here we go. Like I knew it was about to go down. And so she like, we were looking at the horses with our kids and she just walks up in between us and it just starts like basically like trying to take over. Like it was really rude. It wasn't like, hey, how are y'all? She was like, she asked us, we had our dog with us and she's like, is he good with other dogs? And we were like, no, he's not. Like he's not good with other dogs. And so She was offended by that. And then she has like all these carrots and she's like, goes up to like my 5-year-old and she's like, do you want to feed the horses? And we both, me and Daryl were like, no, we don't want him to feed them because they're rescue horses. The rescue horses aren't safe because
It
they have
could,
trauma.
yeah, unpredictable, yeah.
And they have all these signs that say like, don't put your hands in, like, and so we were like, no, we don't want him to do that. And she was like, well, I talked to the owner. And we were like, well, we don't want our son to do that. It was just like so uncomfortable because it was like you could tell she just wanted to come over there just to look at us up close. And I don't want to make assumptions, but that was the vibe she was giving.
I'm sure.
And like I know that that's something that I'm going to deal with when we do things that like typically like Black people or people of color don't do.
Right.
You get the stares, but she was like intrusive and I could tell she was going to follow us as soon as she saw me walking past that cabin door. I was like, oh, okay, here we go. We're going to have a lurker.
That could give you an opportunity to do a little searching for an area or a campground that's more diverse.
Yeah.
At least you can tell by their pictures, they at least try.
And you think that could happen in Ohio?
Sometimes they mostly do, but yeah.
Wait, that's a cool
Never know.
business idea, Amber.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I mean, I don't think here in Ohio, majority of the time when we go camping, you are one of the very few Black people at the campground.
But there's always a few of us at least.
Not as many as sounds like in Colorado.
Well, I would say, I guess I should clarify. It's not a norm that Black people go camping in Colorado. It's just that like the people that we happen to be friends with were also like into it. When I would say, if I were to look back on those times that we went camping, our group was the only people of color actually camping. You know what I mean? Like on the campgrounds, we would stay in we would go all over Colorado. We were pretty much going to be the only families, and it was like 2 other families with mine that were Black people camping. Other than that, that was it. I didn't see like a diverse camping group. Like that it was not the norm. It was just like something that I thought was something that we just did.
Right, like you just grew up with Black people who went camping. Yeah.
Yes. But those were.
But the interesting part about Victor's side of the family is, while a lot of his family members camp, and I'm not sure where that came from within their family. His uncle owns a RV and camps a lot. Amber, you guys camped a lot. Victor's brother owns an RV.
My grandfather had an RV, and they would kind of go out at least once a year. Remember, they always up to Upper Michigan around there.
Yeah.
So, but they didn't really use it a lot. But he always had a camper.
So maybe that's in the water.
Yeah, maybe it's just on our side of I don't know. Because my dad was the one that was the camper. He was always, the camping person. My mom, I think, just married into this. Like, it was like, okay, I'll go. But it was my dad for sure.
Oh. Well, that's interesting. I'm just like, wheels are turning in my head now about like how we should start like I don't know, like an all Black campsite or something. It would be cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Like that. Like maybe, I don't know. I feel like that
would be cool, Nikki. Nikki and I have been kind of brainstorming some ideas for a business because we're our own bosses. We just feel like it's time to do something new. And so we've been generating some business ideas. So maybe we'll have like a, people of color campground.
There you go.
You never know.
You gotta have it.
But anyway, I love this conversation we're having. And for any of our listeners who didn't see the first episode that they were on, you should watch it. But if you didn't, just for some context, Victor and Amber are cousins. And they were totally on our podcast. They were our first guests, like Amber said earlier. And so I'm actually curious for you guys just to jump in.
Okay, so my question is, in talking about your relationship through the lens of racial identity, what feelings have come up for you? And I think, go ahead. No, I was gonna say, I think in reference to we did talk about that topic on our first podcast. So when you were talking about your relationship through the lens of racial identity, have any new feelings come up since?
We really don't have a lot of different friends that we hang out with, but it depends on who we're talking to about racial issues. It depends on how that conversation turns out, when the passion inside me takes over and they say I'm getting too loud or offensive. So we haven't
Good.
really had a lot of those since all this mess started.
Well, I think, I enjoyed listening to your podcast. I'm not remembering specifically the name of the couple you had on. I think it was Nikki's relatives, your cousin.
Yeah, my cousin Clay and his wife Leslie.
They're in a different life stage than us. And so reflecting back on some of the things that they talked about, I found myself talking to, like thinking about and talking to you guys, although you couldn't hear me. And it makes me reflect back on how we ended up with friends. Victor mentions friends, like who we hung out with, why we picked the people we did. Like, I don't know that we purposely picked it, but it did seem a lot of times that we were surrounded by more white friends.
Once we moved east to Elyria, yes, because we didn't grow up here and it's kind of clicky around here. So
well, and I think a lot of it had to do with the area we moved into, like your cousins talked about where they moved to. This was more, although Elyria is very diverse, and when I say diverse, I mean, Black, white, Hispanic, actually Puerto Rican. The area we picked, and I don't know that we did it purposefully, it was just the house that we liked was a very white white area of Elyria.
And at the time it was growing too.
So the kids that our kids ended up in school with were more white kids in the area. And I don't know, I mean, did we go out of our way to establish relationships with other cultures?
I mean, most of the time, if we even dealt with, let's just say, coupled friends or whatever, we kind of outgrew them in one way or another. Either we didn't want to drink as much as they did at one time or another. We didn't like their friends that they were bringing in. It was always over the time with these different friends. A lot.
Even today, we may like a couple and we like hanging out with them, and they may be a white couple, but it seems like their friends maybe aren't as open-minded. And then it's like this group, we don't feel like we fit in with them.
Yeah, like we might see them every once in a while just so they don't, seems like just so they don't think we forget, that they forget about us. But then we see them with a larger group of people, mostly white people, and I'm thinking like, what's up with that?
Understand.
Or, back when our kids were in school, we'd have friends, people we hung out with, but then they would have, other people, and we just didn't click with them. Like we didn't feel comfortable. We didn't feel like, they had things in common with us that we had, or that we could talk about issues that were in common. Always was like if they invited us to dinner or to an event, always was thinking in my head, like, I don't know, this may be really shallow to say, but that there were only going to be white people there. And how did Victor feel about that? Or did they ever even take into consideration picking places? Even today, I'll be honest, sometimes my family, will want to go my side of the family. Do they ever take into consideration, like, will Victor feel comfortable there? Yeah. Will he be okay there? So that's some of the reason we probably outgrew some of the people that we hung out with.
Right.
That was a lot of information, wasn't it?
It's relevant. It's definitely
relevant. And I thought I'm glad to hear the process. It was helpful to hear. I think that, we hope that like our listeners are able to learn from those experiences. I think it's really important, Cathy, that you were able to mention, how that all unfolded over time and how you have been more reflective of like, oh, have you considered how my partner would feel as a person of color in all of these settings? I don't think that that's something that people all the time, really realize, especially in interracial relationships. And I think that was one thing that you said at the end of our last episode was like, what advice would I give? And you said like, as far as for white people, like check your privilege, be aware that like you can just navigate through the world and like your skin color is not going to be an issue and you're not going to stand out because that the privilege that you have, you need to think about your privilege and how it impacts this other person that doesn't show up in the world in that way.
I would question, would those same people be willing to go to an all Black church or an environment where they were the only white person? And how would they feel? Do they ever take into consideration that?
Right.
The other thing, the reason that we became friends at one point in time with one of our son's parents is because the dad, they were doing some type of cultural diversity programming at his job. And it was a goal of his to invite somebody from a different culture over. And that's when he invited you.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How'd you feel about that?
That's interesting.
We conveniently forgot that as the years went on, though. I mean, we stayed friends for a long time, but that always stayed in the back of my head, though.
Well, it's like, it's always, kind of like that. Well, Victor's Black, but he's different.
Yeah.
He's not that.
Right.
I feel like white people are so used to having like the token Black friend around them.
Yes.
Right.
I saw this TikTok and it's like stuck with me ever since. But she was basically like, whenever I see an interracial marriage, I always look at their wedding photo and see the bridesmaids and the groomsmen, and like the white partner have only white people in their bridal.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Whether it's the groom or the bride, like, does the white person only have white people in their side? And if so, that's problematic. You know what I mean?
We did that.
That was totally us. And at our wedding reception, all the white people sat on one side, all the Black people sat.
But I guess I had white friends, but they just weren't worthy to be in my wedding, I guess.
No, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I've actually
That's an
seen
interesting point, though.
it is. I've actually seen to that point, Nikki, like some weddings where it's a white man marrying like a Black woman, and like all of his groomsmen were like Black men.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
And I was like, okay, like he really does feel comfortable in this setting. Like I've appreciated that. So I like to be able to see that too, where it's like he was actually the only white friend in the group. It's rare, but it's cool to see.
Yeah, there's always that one white guy, right?
Yep.
But I'm curious though, like for you guys, because obviously you've been married for over 30 years, and it's not like every single day you wake up and talk about like your race, right? Or your racial identities. So I'm wondering, as you've been kind of talking about it and probably talking about it a little bit more, maybe, what feelings come up for you? Like, what do you feel when you're talking about your racial identities together?
Man, I'm quick here. With this issue with America today and us as a couple already under fire for the last couple years, now all this, and I have anxiety and depression on top of that, it just kind of makes you want to stay at home. Because it's pretty scary out there to me.
I'm sad that I wish I knew more then than I know now. Like, I had to grow and am still growing, but I wish then I would have made some different decisions. And don't ask me specifically what, because I'm not sure. But I would have looked at things a little differently. We were in love. Love was going to cure everything and solve everything.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been as maybe naive.
Thank you for your vulnerability and sharing that.
We were curious to learn more about your parenting journey and what intentional steps did you take to foster a positive sense of identity?
I mean, we talked about our parenting styles are definitely different because of our culture and our background. And I brought an older son into the relationship. So parenting, when we started having kids, and my older son at first was a battle. I mean, here I am with social worker of the year for 30 something years, my indoor counselor, but I'm a young guy. I'm a young Marine Black man figuring life out. All I know is how I was brought up. That's how I was brought up on how to raise a kid. So when we got together and had our two kids, you learn how to kind of go with the flow, calm it down, and aging helps too. But yeah, you just kind of figure it out together. It wasn't always the greatest, but we always figured it out together.
In the end, we always figured it out together.
Love that.
Looking back, it wasn't just race, though, I think. A lot of issues played into your parenting style being different than my parenting
Oh, yeah,
style.
military, yeah.
Not having a dad growing up, your vision of what a dad was versus my vision of what it was. His son moved in to live with us
At a certain age,
and third grade. So it was that he's not my kid, but it's not the way I would do it. And when do I step in if I think that it's too much?
Yeah, we had been married not even a year when he came to live with us, right?
No. Yeah,
So,
we weren't even married a year.
Okay.
And then it was the whole here I am, a white stepmom to an all black child.
Yeah.
I knew that kid was there, but I ain't asked for this.
How, though, with regards to our kids and their identity? I mean, we've always been very, at least I have, and Victor has grown, I think, tremendously in his like open minded, even to whatever their lifestyle wanted to be.
Hell yeah.
That took a lot. I mean, this, even just, male, female. I know my oldest son that I gave birth to, when he was in grade school, he wanted this toy that was generally marketed for girls. It was pink. And I said, look, let's go to the store and we're going to buy it. They were animals. I'm like, how can animals be a gender? How can they be only for girls or only for boys? So let's go to the store. We went to Toys R Us. We bought it. I took it out of all of its packaging, the pink packaging, all of that. And it was like, okay, we won't show your dad the package. He won't know. It's okay for you to have this. You can have it doesn't have to be a girl's toy. So
those are the things you're talking about. I had to adjust to. Like, it's not really that big of a deal. I mean, people going to experience different things in life. Might as well do it when they're a kid.
I wanted to buy a kitchen set for the kids, so we compromised on a grill set
and a McDonald's drive-through.
But
it was with regards to time.
Yeah.
Right.
Like it was I just want to affirm that. Like you can only do with what you know and what you've seen.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I will say I feel a little bit guilty that I didn't go out of my way more to put the kids or have the kids and or interact with, I guess, Black people or be in activities where more Black people are. We just did activities.
We didn't make it a priority for them as interracial, biracial children to pay more attention one way or the other. My parenting style is I just want to raise decent, respectable human beings.
Exactly. Right. But I will be honest, there have been comments within the family, and I'm going to say Victor's side of the family, that people would say Cathy raised those kids white. She thinks they're white. She's raising them white. She's putting them all in a white, environment. Like I said before, the situation was my family was around here. And while Victor's mom was too, my mom and sister helped out a lot more. I don't know if that's because I'm a girl and that's my mom and my sister, but they watched my kids more. They, took my kids. They helped more than, Victor's mom at that point in time or Victor's side of the family.
Well, I can really resonate with that as a biracial person because I feel like it was similar for me, and mainly because I was with my mom's family a lot, like my aunties and my uncles and cousins who were all brown and were Dominican. But like my family, like my parents, all of their friends were white. All of them. All of their friends were white, except for like a couple people. Like my dad had a couple guy friends who were Black. I remember. But the fact that they stuck out to me means that they weren't a lot,
Right.
And so it was like we were definitely raised as white people. I mean, I always felt that way, at least. You know what I mean? And it was so much so that I rejected half of my identity for a while because I was like, oh, but I'm just white. And people were like, look in the mirror. Like, no, you're not. But it was just because I was used to being around white people so much. So much of it is a little bit out of your control. And I think it's normal to feel guilty. But, in the same vein, your children, once they do grow up, they have the choice of who they want to surround themselves with. And that's something I'm now conscious as an adult. Like, yes, I have white friends, but they're white friends who support me and understand me, support,
Right.
you know, people of color. They're not just every regular white people. You know,
Our parenting style has once we figured it all out, has always been like, you know, you make your choices and make good choices. And I mean, they both have totally different lifestyles. Like all three of my sons, they all have totally different lifestyles, totally different personalities. So
Yeah.
they got a little bit of us in all of them.
do you think that your relationship has impacted the way that your sons date?
You mean us being in an interracial relationship?
Yeah.
How they think,
Or like how they date.
How they date like others.
how they date.
I mean, I think they date. They're pretty open about dating. I mean, they've dated white, black, Hispanic. So
Asian.
yeah. So I think they'll date whatever. So, but I think Maxwell's personality is more of a black man's personality, and Griffin's is kind of like free, the earth. I love the planet. I don't give a damn about nothing but more tattoos and the earth. That's Griffin. And Deontay's like, I'll just go to work, keep my mouth shut, and take care of my family. They different.
They're just totally different, yeah.
Get down, be honest.
And they never really said, they openly all said, I mean, I don't feel comfortable dating black women.
Well, that's what I was going to be honest about. So our oldest son, who is black, the mother of his child is white. He thinks he's better than most black people.
Sadly.
I'll be honest in that way. He looks down something like he thinks he's like above most black people.
I always look at myself and be like, damn, did I do that? How'd that happen?
So our oldest son together, like Victor said, I don't know that he would date a black girl or date a black person.
Griffin?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think he'd be close to it. He has always, his friends that he hung out with in school, majority of them were white.
Artsy kids,
Artsy, drama, choir. And him and our youngest son, their perception of black females at their age were that they were loud. That's that in their head, their stereotype.
Right.
They're loud. Now Maxwell, he says, he wouldn't not date a black girl, but he is concerned about this stereotype of loud, aggressive type of the view that he has.
Do you think that their view comes from just going to like predominantly white schools and not really being around a lot of like black women or black girls?
No, because when they got into high school, like all three schools in Elyria all went to the same high school. I think it was their experiences in high school. And I always tell them, like, that's not all. I don't know if it's just Elyria. Like
I think people look at our community and expect a certain something out of people that look like me, but we all don't act like that. And I think the community like craves off of it or is fueled off of it. Mm-hmm. So it's like over the top around here. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and I said where the part that I feel guilty, like I wonder if, they lived or had experience in living in an area where economically they saw black people who were striving, who were making things of themselves and succeeding. Do you understand? Does that make sense?
Yeah, like maybe their perception of black people was formed by a limited sample size that they were around.
Well, I will say staying family, because family to me is most important. Even with my kids, when they were around them, they got to see our family, how they live. Like our black family, most of them live well. So you can do it. If you work hard, you've seen it in our family. So really just wanted my boys to see what it was like around me, us, our community, and our family.
I think had they gone to college, maybe they would have had more experiences.
Like it's almost just like they didn't have a diverse range of what like blackness is.
Not really.
I got you.
It wasn't never one way or the other. It was just mostly one way.
And I'll be honest, our youngest son who played basketball, he stopped playing because he didn't like the kids on the team who were mostly black. He didn't feel comfortable.
Well, he also didn't like the coaching style.
But he never felt like he fit in with them. Now he has a range of friends, black, white, of our kids. He probably has the most diverse culturally friends. Now Griffin has the most diverse in regards to lifestyle friends.
If you are a parent and you have kids in sports, especially basketball, you're going to see the type of kids or the community around high school basketball and double A, what is that, AAU basketball. Yeah. And I'm not a big fan of that type of behavior, but I wanted my kids to do all that. So,
yeah.
And Maxwell, his personality is he's not tough and rough, and I mean he's a little softer with regards to he's kinder, on the basketball court. He wasn't the most aggressive kid, and so I think he got razzed by that. Like I think the other kids on the basketball team who were black saw him as white.
No. But
a white biracial kid.
You know what? I never thought about that.
Look at this.
I forgot what I was going to say. Don't forget it. Damn, for real?
But I appreciate like your vulnerability and just saying that out loud too, because I feel like that's hard. That's tricky. Like, and it's one of those, like as a parent, it's like you don't want to force them to, you don't want to have any control over who they date or don't date. But it is an interesting like dichotomy. We were talking about this earlier, Amber and I, about like how when we see, what was it? It was something on social media about like when the difference between when it's a white woman and a black man versus a black man and a white woman. Did I say
Yeah. No, that's right. You're right.
Okay.
Like I was referencing because I always send her like things that I see, and I had sent her a TikTok that was like a black woman saying like, "Oh, I love to see another black woman being loved by a white man." She's like, "It's so beautiful." But then in the comments, a lot of women were like, "But I side eye black men with white women," and I was like, "I wonder why that is." It's like black men get dismissed if they are seen with white women, and then vice versa. I think even more recently with Saquon Barkley for the Eagles, he was one of the players that went to the White House to celebrate the Super Bowl win. And a lot of them, like Jalen Hurts, decided not to.
Did Saquon go then?
Saquon apparently went. I don't know. I saw that I saw some pictures with him, but like people were like, "Oh, figures," because he's married to a white woman, and I was like, "Well, wait a minute." It's like it dismissed his blackness or something, and I wonder. Nikki and I also had an episode where we talked about how some people say, well, you get your culture from your mother. So like with biracial children, they have experience, like there's people like as an adult, they've explained their upbringing. And there was a woman who identifies as a black biracial woman, but she was raised by a black dad and a white mom. And she said that they both hated her. I know it's really sad, but then, so she felt like her dad didn't really like uplift who she was, and her mom didn't really uplift who she was. And then in turn, there will be biracial kids who are raised by a black mom, and they feel like they have more sense of that black side of their identity. I don't know if that's true, but I just was like, this is like a trend. And like, even like within their social circle, how they're accepted, where it's like, oh, if you're biracial and you have a black mom, or like mom that's like the mom of color. Like, for example, Nikki's biracial, her mom is, Dominican. Then versus if you have a white mom, like there's this acceptance in your peer groups almost. And I wanted to know, like, I guess I'm curious, do you think that that has anything to do with maybe how Maxwell was feeling on like, the basketball team and being like accepted by, because you said like maybe his peers saw him as like yes, we know you're biracial, but they kind of like brushed him off as white.
Because he wasn't aggressive and because he was the biggest guy out there and he wasn't the typical big, tall black kid. Same stuff I had to deal with as a kid, too. So,
Well, yeah. And then Victor, you and I dealt with that as far as for like the way that we talk or who we were mostly around.
right.
Like I had literally had to have battles about, are people saying, am I whitewashed or an Oreo, or do I must want to sound like a white person, or I talk like a white person? And Nikki and I have talked about this as well, but it was like, or people have said, of course you have a baby with a white, or of course you had children with white people. And I was like, no, I'm
Because
not
of how you talk.
centering that.
Right.
Yeah.
People
Yeah,
have such
that's
a narrow
ridiculous.
perception of
Yes,
what
narrow
they think black
perceptions.
people are supposed to be like, and then if you're not like
Right.
that, and you
Exactly.
say that for any race of color, but if you're not like that, then it's like there's something wrong with you, and you're just trying to be white, and it's like, no, I just like chess or whatever it is that that I think
Right.
your son just didn't like basketball or whatever.
Yeah.
Camping, right? All the things, yes.
But we did have experiences when we first started dating where black women would go up to Victor and say, when you're done with that white woman, people within his community he grew up with.
Yeah.
Yeah, come look me up when you're done with her or whatever. But the other comment I wanted to make was my family then at one point when I was pushing back about the boys being black, my children, they were like, well, don't forget they're half white too. Like they felt like as I was
Gonna forget that identity.
yeah, that I wasn't, I was totally saying they were just black. Well, they're white too.
Look at them. They don't look black or white. They kind of right there in the middle. So they really going to shoot then. So it's what we're trying to say.
So much of multiracial identity is how you look, literally how you come out
Right.
of the womb. Like, because you can be any mixture of any color in between the two of you, and you're going to identify totally differently.
What do you do? Do you make a conscious effort to expose your kids to certain things or have them interact with certain groups of people? Flipping the question, in regards to their racial identity.
As far as for my kids,
Yeah.
I think as far as for so far, because they're only, at least the younger two, they're only 5 and almost 3. We talk about, you have brown skin, your mom is brown, your dad is white, but we're similar to you all, me and Daryl, as far as for like, we just want to raise good humans. We just want to raise like respectable kids. And I think that's why this podcast was so important, because I wanted a platform for especially people who are multiracial to know that there are so many parts of their identity that they can embrace, and that like you're white and black, you're Dominican and white, there's more to you than just one parent or the other. But I think I know that I have sons who are going to present as not white in the world, and so I'm still going to have I'm going to have conversations with them about being young black men. And I think I'm going to have a perspective as their mom, that is a woman of color, to be able to say, if you get pulled over, for example, and I think, Victor, you had this conversation with your sons, you're going to present as a black man. This is another part of your identity. We will talk about these conversations. And, people might treat you differently because of the way that you show up in the world. But then it's like trying to navigate that conversation when they're so young. Like when do you start talking about it, I think, is what I'm trying to figure out. I know that my 5-year-old is in kindergarten and he comes home and he's like, I'm brown. And, like we read a book on skin color. I'm like, absolutely.
Because they'll start asking more questions.
Yeah. And I think I'm just going to just be open and honest.
You got to be.
Yeah, I think that's just my priority. And I did that with my oldest, who is black. I just was very open and honest about the world and how they perceive black girls. And I never once gave that message of, you have to work twice as hard. I didn't want that to carry on. It was just more like, this is how the world perceives us. We watched a lot of movies together. My oldest, like their favorite movie is or favorite book is The Hate You Give. And wanted to always constantly talk about like those kind of racial issues in the world and like racial injustices. But I didn't like force the like identity of blackness, like I felt my experience was, on to my oldest. It wasn't like you're black, and you can only have black Barbies, you can only have black dolls. It was like, let's embrace everything about
Right.
you.
Yeah.
There has
Yeah.
to be a balance. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the era you kind of grew up in, Amber. Yours was more like the black thing was becoming the thing, more African this, more African that. While we had our kids, you know, they're 20 something years old now, and it was all about diversity while they were growing up. So
Right.
And I think I want to say, I want to give grace to parents. Raising a kid, just getting them fed, clothed, out the door, like the daily task.
yeah,
There's so much in raising a kid, and then impressing upon that about their identity and their, like, sometimes you're just living in the moment to be able to breathe, eat, work, put food on the table, like do the things so they end up alive still.
Yeah. Yeah.
right.
Parenting's hard. There's a lot to it. And it's gotten harder.
And you hope you know your kid's personality and what type of adult they're going to be the rest of their life before you get too old. So we're almost, well, I'm almost 58, 57. So I think I realize I can stop parenting my boys because that's who they're going to be right now. But if they need some advice, I got words for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say one priority that I have is that I want my sons to see from their dad how women should be treated. That is a priority. And whether I was white or black, I would want them to know that you treat women with respect, and no means no. And that is something that I have been talking about since they were old enough to talk, is like, how do you treat women?
Right.
I've got a two-part thought. One is just hearing all three of you guys talking about raising your kids. Like, race is one component. It's not everything, right? So you never want to be like, you should just talk to your kids about race and ignore sex, drugs, nutrition, mental health, ignore everything else. It's the whole child, right? And then
Right.
also curious, Amber, do you think when it is time to talk to the boys about showing up in the world as young black men, what do you think Daryl's role will be in that?
Good point. I think that we need to be on the same page for sure. I mean, we are, but I need him to know that we treat everybody with respect. We treat everybody equally. And the way that you're going to show up is not the same as how their own father would show up in the world. I think that he needs to also acknowledge his privilege as being a white male to them and say, we're not going to have the same experiences. I think that he needs to own that when they have those conversations. And also, we've talked about the current political climate and how it impacts me versus how it impacts him. And I think that our kids need to understand that when they get old enough to understand those kind of concepts, and how the world really truly views black women, and knowing that I want them to know that all women are treated with respect, but I want them to value and know, let's love black women. I feel like right now, Nikki, it's like hard for me because I don't have like this example other than me to give them right now, like the black side of my family. And that's something that my husband and I have talked about. Like, he has felt very sad by the fact that they don't have their black grandparents in their life, and they don't have their black uncle in their life. To be able to talk to them about the things that, like, he won't have from his perspective. He doesn't have those life experiences. And I really appreciate that. Like, he has noted that he said, like, this breaks my heart that they don't have those role models and those opportunities and experiences. So I think for us, we might prioritize more savviness that are a reflection, or being surrounded by people that are a reflection of all types of race and backgrounds, but more specifically my background. Because I think that he recognizes he, our sons are around his white family members with being around his mom, my husband's mom, and aunt. That's all they know right now. And I don't think that they embrace my black identity as much as I would like them to. And so I think that's actually something that's been on my heart, because we did our will last year, I want to say, or a year or two ago. Who do our kids go to if something happens? And we picked his sister, And then now with the political climate, I've been like, but how am I going to guarantee? Because like she voted for Trump, so I'm like, how am I going to guarantee that you're going to protect their identity like that, like how I would? And like, how do I guarantee that? Because she's not surrounded by Black people. And so if something happens to us, I can't guarantee, like, I'm like trying to think, like, I need more family members and relatives or like people that look like me around my sons so that they can grow up and see that everybody, like they can see, I guess, successful and positive images of multiple people. I hope that did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, I think it's actually really deep, like super deep.
Yeah,
Well, I'm
absolutely.
thinking about that emergency piece right now. That's what's sticking with me. Wow.
Yeah. How am I going to guarantee that my sister-in-law will make sure that our boys know that they are also Black? I know she'll provide wonderful opportunities and experiences for them because that's just how she operates and moves through life. But is she going to protect and support that part of their identity that I would be doing? Not necessarily, because that's not her life.
Yeah, that's really deep. Thank you for sharing that. And I think it would resonate with a lot of people. And it's a weird note to end on, but we are going to wrap up. So something we have been doing ever since we had you guys on the podcast is um, ending with an intention for the week ahead. So try to think for a little bit on what your intention might be, something you are intending for the week ahead, or something you're looking forward to.
Well, I intend to keep physically getting better each day from my walking. I think I'm getting better physically where I'm ready to go work every day, be up on my feet every now and then. So hopefully by the end of this week, I'll have a job.
Manifesting that.
Yes.
I will say this is something I've been struggling with, well, all my life really, is my weight. I lost almost a good 30, 40 pounds like 2 years ago. And so then seeing you two and the journey you guys have had, it's, been inspiring because I gained almost all of that weight back and I'm frustrated with myself about that. My intention is I've been more physically active with the weather being nice, but really making a plan about how am I going to get back on track to where I want to be and who I want to be.
It's true what they say. If you don't use it, you lose it. So as you get older, it's harder to stay fit and healthy and just healthy in general. You gotta dig deep within your soul to keep it moving. Because if you don't, you're gonna be knotted up like my back and Kathy's knees.
What an exciting intention to focus on yourself. That's what I hear when you say that, is you're focusing on yourself. You're going to focus on your own health and your own energy.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a win.
Thank you.
That's a win.
How about you guys?
My intention for the week. Ooh. Well, I'm going to go see a good friend in the city on Sunday. So I'm really excited. I haven't seen her in forever. So that's going to be really fun. I haven't been to the city in a couple months anyway. And I want to see the cherry blossoms in Central Park. So I'm going to have a movie picturesque day on Sunday. So I'm really looking forward to that. And my intention is to stay calm and get to Sunday. How about you, Amber?
Well, I am, like we mentioned this earlier, but while I love what I'm doing, I also have been realizing that it's draining me mentally. So I think I want to be more intentional about really knowing what I want to do next, like what's my next chapter, and then manifesting that, like putting it out there. But I think right now I just want the ideas to come to me and I want to be open to ideas. And also just, I think, being intentional about not rushing it. Like I'm good where I am right now, but knowing that like I want to be more open to what other possibilities are out there. My husband and I have been talking a lot about like just getting an RV, selling our house and just living on the road. But I don't know how like that's gonna work out just right now. I'm open to it. I want to do it. I feel like life's too short to like wait till you get to a certain point and then you can't, like you said, if you don't use it, you lose it. So
Yeah.
just trying to figure out what that next chapter looks like, and just being, I want to be open to possibilities.
Stay open, girl.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid
Yes.
to take that jump.
Yeah, I think we're
I
ready.
think the
we're ready.
getting in the RV thing with the kids is a great idea, because when you do stuff like that when they're young and through their lives, when they get to be adults, that's your family thing, at least once a year like ours. But your kids have that love as well as
No, they're talking about selling their house and living in an RV.
and traveling the country.
Yeah,
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 that'd be
do
cool.
it.
Yeah.
Do it now
That
while
sounds
you
You should
can.
do it now too. I do.
Yeah. So it's just more like, how are we going to be? Can we sustain that? So I want to be open to the possibilities, and we've been being realistic about, this might not happen next year, but could it happen within the next?
This is the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will tell you one thing. I am, because of my personality, I know y'all trying to wrap things up
No, I
right
like it.
here. Victor is always, and I give him so much credit. If he wasn't the one in our relationship that like just jumped in with 2 feet, not caring about what the consequence or the what would occur, a lot of things in our relationship probably wouldn't have happened, because I'm
Right.
too, I got to think about it all and I plan it all. And he just is ready to jump. Now, sometimes it isn't always a strength. There's jumping in with 2 feet without having a plan. But for the most part, that is how he operates, and it gets us going when I'm dragging behind.
Well, I love that.
I needed to hear that.
I was just gonna say, and cheers to love on that note. We'll end on a high note. Thank you for joining us again, Victor and Cathy. Oh, we love it. We love the kids. Thank you for joining us again. You can come back anytime.
Well, thanks for having us.
For sure.
It was
I've enjoyed listening to your other couples and other guests.
The stories, yes.
They've been good too. So keep going. I'm just impressed by everything you all are doing.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Well, thank you.
I feel like my eyes crossed.
We are the Mixtapes Podcast. Please follow us on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, and Facebook. And we would love for you to join us as well on the podcast. So if you or someone you know is biracial, mixed race, or in an interracial relationship, or transracially adopted, or raising biracial children, hit us up at themixtapespod@gmail.com. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Stopping the recording now.